I like your music.
Yeah, thanks. Welcome, everybody. Thanks again. If you're joining in, I am Dave Darrington, and I welcome you once again to another session of our show, Working Out Loud. As the name entails, we're going to talk about, the work we do. We're going to talk about problems that we're having, and we're going to welcome anybody and everybody who's in the audience. This is a chat. This is a time to participate, and even if you might want to join us today or in the future, we'll work that out too. This is our place to play on LinkedIn and talk about customer education, talk about enablement, talk about learning management, talk about B2B software, and that's where I'm going to land. This show is about three things in my mind, and it's ever evolving. One is I want you to step aside and use this channel, use this time to think about the problems and the software and the things that we're seeing in B2B SaaS. A lot of the times in software, you get thrown something at you, your boss, your peer, your enablement team, whomever says, hey, you've got this tool to use and you have to learn it and you have to adopt it. That's the other side of customer success. That's the use side, the side where you want to learn. And what we want to do is open that up and do it from outside of the university. We're going to talk about universities today, so it's going to be cool. Then I want to help us all understand how software is changing the world palpably. And we're going to be talking about that throughout. And above all, we work out loud. So this is the time we're going to have Sandra Elliott on here today and talk about people who are building, using, and helping teach, right? Helping us learn about that from the inside. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and bring my friend Sandra Elliott on here on the show. Got a couple more things to say here. Again, my tagline, if you're not learning, you're churning. Things move fast. And again, this is a live show today. So get in the comments, talk to us. It's only the two of us right now. So I'll be checking comments periodically. And sometimes I go so fast, I can't keep up. So just hang in there. Remember as well, if you're a time traveler and you're seeing this in the future, still comment, still like this. The best thing about LinkedIn Live and YouTube, which is also streaming on, is you can participate whenever. Mm-hmm. All right. So let's turn the mic over to you, Sandra. I'm going to give you the stage front and center.
Oh gosh.
Can you please, you're on the show, you're front and center. Can you tell us about yourself and welcome? I'm really glad to have you on the show. You're a dear friend. We hang out every once in a while. You're in the Pacific Northwest. So tell us about you, your role, your background.
Okay.
What's up in life?
Hi, Amy. Amy said hello. My name's Sandra Elliott. Like it says on the screen, I am currently the Director of Customer Education at Thought Industries, which is a customer learning platform that you can use to deliver your training, whether it's ILTs, VILTs, or something else, like e-learnings, things along those lines. I've been in the customer education space in software since 2008, when I worked at a company called Web Trends, and it was moving from
Web Trends,
on-premise software to SaaS software. So I've done the transition to SaaS. And that's not the first. I've done that a couple more times. And I started that in 2008. Before that, I was a career college professor at a community college in Houston and then at Rice University. So I love the world of education. Wow. Yeah. I taught writing. You didn't know that, did you?
I didn't know that. And Rice is an incredible university. I've had friends that go there. Mm-hmm. Lots of fun. Wow, that's okay. I'm gonna go ahead and bring myself in.
Yeah.
There. Okay. I love your background, and I didn't know that. I was a college professor as an adjunct, so I can't give you the tenured whatever. I was offered that at one point when I was now in software. I'm like, I kind of like this better, but. Okay. Well, I want to ask you some questions this time about your background. I don't normally spend more time on this, but I think backgrounds are important. And the thing that I want to share again with our audience is what people that find their way to this field tend to be a hybrid of a lot of different things. So I see some people come in who have been customer success managers and leaders. Mm-hmm. I see people who have been educators like you and I see implementation people. Mm-hmm. I see instructional designers. I see all these different people. What drew you in particular? I mean, you were teaching, right? At a university.
Right.
That's a track that's really oh my gosh, this isn't to deprecate it at all, but it's kind of a wonderful, comfortable space to be, to ideate, to teach, to think. But then you looked at software and you're like, I want to go do that.
Yeah. It's a pretty easy answer in that regard. Isn't that like, I don't know if you can hear my dog whining in the background, but here in
but we welcome. It's a dog friendly and kid friendly show.
Yeah. In a moment, when you start to ask a question, I'll hop up and I'll let him outside so he won't be whining the whole time.
Wonderful.
So I taught writing at a community college, and strangely enough, I think one of the things that you'll find is community colleges tend to be really forward thinking in the way that they approach learning. Whereas, like the 4-year universities tend to be a little more staid and a little bit more, and you're right, they're very stable. It's a nice, stable job, but it's not very forward thinking. And I was,
went there.
Yes, it's not, in 2006, I was supposed to be teaching people how to write memos. And I'm like, oh, when was the last time you saw a memo? So, I was wanting to teach things like writing for the web and stuff like that. And people were like, oh, nobody's ever going to do that. Businesses are not going to do that. And well, I don't agree. So I was also using a piece of software and showing that piece of software was functioning well and people were using it. And that's how WebTrends found me, because I was teaching all the other professors how to use WebTrends. And they said, do you want to come and build a program for us? And I said, yes, I do. And I just fell in love with it. I fell in love with teaching people how to use software. It's not honestly all that different from teaching the strategic communications that I was teaching. I'm teaching people how to use tools in a strategic way and then show people that they're valuable, right?
Oh my God. Okay. Use tools in a strategic way and show them how they're valuable.
Yeah. And show that, people in their own programs or in their own companies how they're valuable.
You can't see it, but why I love what you've just said is that frames up what we do really, really well. It's really the table stakes that people like you and it's funny that you mentioned WebTrends, because at one point I actually used the product and I actually went up to, I worked for a company called Tripos, now called Certara, and I was the web developer. And this was before Google Analytics. And, I went to the training, but then that training, it was funny because that was some of the last training I'd ever done, where I had to fly up to Minneapolis, go to a center, sit in a class for a week. And I think it was 2 or 3 days, and then learn all the things, but it was still software. Right. And, but now we don't do it like that. Now we've gotten away from the butts in seats kind of stuff.
Yeah. Like I was the person that moved all of that online. So because, there's no reason for people to need to fly. Yeah. No reason for people to need to fly now to go sit in a classroom to learn something that you can learn on the web. If it's SaaS, why are you making people do that?
Yeah. And that's true. And even more, why are you having, there's a real reason for this, because we talk about having trainers, right? Trainers have been invaluable to us because they understand that interrelationship with human beings. When you're in a classroom and you're a professor, I was a professor, there's a joy to that. You like to engage with people and walk around the room and say, hey, and this is funny. I have some people that I still know are still friends of mine, but had been in a class at the time. Yeah. And I was teaching and closing the eyes and stuff, and you kind of walk around and say, hey, how you doing? Oh, that we need that in real life too, because now when you're on a webinar, you're like,
yeah, exactly. Or you're doing 14 things over here, So I'm going to disappear off the camera briefly because my dog's
let her pop in here. You know what? I'm going to do a solo screen here, and then, okay, this gives me a really good seg. Great job, Sandra. What we want to talk about today. So I'm glad, I'm thankful for your background. I really, every time we bring somebody in the show, I like to talk about that. But what we want to talk about today, if I can frame this up, is a little bit different from what we were just talking about. We were talking about how our joy for education, we love software and peanut butter jelly time. It all comes together, and here we are. Those of you out there are listening or you're thinking about this problem space, it is the hardest darn thing in the world to do. Why is it hard? It's hard for a not so obvious reason. Like I'm seeing companies start to appear now and say, I'm going to help build universities. I'm going to help build academies. I'm going to help build programs. And then once you come from that down to doing it and doing it at scale, you realize that this requires technical thinking, deep understanding of instructional design and learning methodologies, human psychology, motivational science. Like, oh my God, I'm going to be in this field for the rest of my career.
Communication, project management, like
Graphic design.
Graphic design. Oh gosh, yes.
Data analysis. Okay, we've listed all the things.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, not all the things, but we're close.
No. Okay. Well, that's probably a enumerated list of 15 or 20. Okay, so let's do the frame up. The frame up is, okay, Sandra, we've done all these things, but now let's come into the world where we're building. Okay, I like to use this. I've built my first rung on the ladder of my academy, the first course, my end user course. It's got a number of modules. I'm super proud of it. My team's we've launched our university for the first time and we're super excited. And then yeah, Amy's been saying here, add budding for tech stack.
Yes. It
Okay.
only gets bigger and bigger over time.
So you're in this moment where you have all this joy. I built my first program. Maybe you're a new leader. Maybe this is your first job as a manager or a senior manager and you're leading an education team. You've got this, right? I'm giving this to you. This is my university. Now let's go forward in time, a month, 2 months, 3 months. Oh, quarter past, we've got a new product release. Okay, I could ignore that. Guess what? Customers are like, hey, Sandra, the screen doesn't look anything like it does in the video.
What do you mean?
What the heck? Or your product team's like, we've got a new product. You've got to release training. It's a week. You want me to release a course in a week? Like, I can't tell you that.
And I don't know if you've ever had this happen, but you get into a class and you find that the UI is different. Right? You're teaching and you're like, oh, this is new.
Yeah, and I've had some of my trainers do that too. And they go, hey, what's going on here? Like this, I'm embarrassed. And yeah, we get caught with our pants down in education sometimes because we're moving at, well, hell, we're moving at the speed of light. Literally, we're in the cloud. So, okay, what I want to do with that is then talk about in this episode, how do we keep up with the changing dynamic and all the changes that our product is giving us? And I want you to frame up from there, like why, in your words, I've kind of set the stage, but what are the things that are driving this kind of change in the world as opposed to 20 years ago?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the biggest, we're talking about SaaS, and SaaS is absolutely the biggest driver of this. Everybody has gotten used to the fact that if you're using a SaaS software of any type, whether it's Gmail, whether it's Facebook, whatever it is, it can make changes on a dime. And very often you'll see changes happening multiple times a week. Every now and then you'll get some heads up on it that says, hey, we're going to be making some big changes. That just happened in Gmail. They've got a little bit of a different setup than they used to. But a lot of times they're tiny little changes that don't impact you very much. But if you are a company that is serving up software to people that need to use the software for their jobs, those little changes can be big things. And if those changes are happening and they're not reflected in the training, it kind of looks like you're not keeping up with your own product. So that's problematic, right? Like, I mean, this comes from agile software development.
And agile is a movement, and there'd been a manifesto written about that. It's
something
really
like your customer education manifesto.
Oh, thank you for this.
Yes.
We'll put a link up to that later.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I have a link on here.
Yeah.
I'll throw my link on while we're talking. But okay, tell me more about agile though, because I don't think everybody understands it.
So agile was a software development movement that started in the 2000s, I believe. Please, if I got it wrong, somebody can feel free to correct me, but I think it started in the 2000s. That basically said that we don't have to, now that we have SaaS, create a massive plan for big changes to our product, spend 3 to 6 months getting those things done, testing them, making sure they're doing it, and then rolling all of it out in 3 to 6 months. We have the ability to roll things out much faster in a SaaS environment because it'll just be updated for everybody all the time. People don't have to update it on premise. And there's a lot more behind it than that. And I don't want to really try to dig out the concepts behind why software development might want to go that direction and how it works in the collaborative groups and that sort of thing. The idea is that you'd have sprints. Usually sprints are about 2 weeks long, where code would be developed and finalized and then released if it passes QA. So you can have changes to a product every couple of weeks that can be pretty big changes.
Yeah.
And in Agile as well, they can do bug fixes or minor fixes or things along those lines on a daily basis. So you've got big changes coming in the software on a pretty regular basis. And if you've got 30 classes out there, that can have a massive impact on your training. Not to mention, our team at Thought Industries oversees not only the classes that we have, but also all of our help articles. Anything that you see that pops up in the tool, that's ours. And then we also have a little pullout on the side that we call Atlas. And all of that is stuff that we have to update. Altogether, we've got about 200 or so items that we need to keep track of and update, sometimes on an every other couple weeks basis. And actually, we've just moved to weekly. So it's going to get
for release production cycle.
Yeah, well, for some kind of release.
Continuous release is what
continuous I think release. That. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that.
I got it right.
Yeah, you win. Hey.
Barely got it right, but I got it right.
Okay. I think that is really important in this episode for us to frame up that you have said in a nutshell why we feel pain. And I'm going to say this out loud here because we're working out loud, that I think why customer education, and when I say customer education, I also want to think enablement in employee enablement, partner enablement, all of this stuff is all part of that same fabric of how we have to go in and engage with our internal people to be able to engage with our external customers. And we are the conduit. We are that channel for bringing the knowledge forward out of the minds and the file folders and the G drives and box drives. And we build it down into this kernel of truth and let it out into the world.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
That's our job. And it's, well, my screen is really weird here.
Yeah, I know. It suddenly turned you bright red, dude.
It's sorry. Yeah, I'm like, okay, let's change my lighting. But it's bizarre. It's bizarre. It's bizarre in that we are a product. We're at the same level as our developers. We're lagging a little bit behind them. But if we don't have a dance, if we're not dancing all the time and talking all the time and coordinating all the time, and also if we're not having a conduit back from the customer for that feedback loop on our educational material and bringing that back into our product team, this is the thing. I'm not sure why customer education and this whole education enablement dynamic hasn't become much more important to leadership, because that's what we're doing. We're taking we're building the substrate layer of all the knowledge of a company and making sure that it keeps up. And we're doing it every day, just like our product team is doing.
And I think Kevin started this off really well. He said that we need to have a good relationship with the product manager. Every place that I go, the very first thing that I have done is meet the people in support, meet the people in customer success, meet the people in professional services, and meet the people in product. Marketing and sales comes super fast after that, because I think customer education can help in those regards. But if I don't understand the product and I don't know where it's going, and I don't know, if I can't get in front of the people who are not only onboarding and using the product, but are telling people how they want to use the product in the future and where they're having problems, I'm not going to be successful in customer education. So as a leader in that group, it is my responsibility to have really good, solid foundations with those other departments. And I don't know I'm sure that other departments have to have those kind of wide webs as well, but education is imperative,
Heck yeah. Okay. We're gonna channel the cat here on Friday.
There we go.
The meme
Okay.
cat. All right, let's get into this now. And hey, there's great comments going on here. We're talking about hot takes.
Yep.
Ryan's like, hot takes, his face turned red. Yeah, I'm still flaming from the Reaper.
I loved that show.
Hello, everybody. So I'm seeing in the chat, Ryan, Amy, Kevin. Let's see. We also had somebody else in here in the front. Caesar. Thank you all for joining. Hey, keep commenting. Let it be responsive to us as we're talking, because we're here. We're live. All right, let's break into this. And we have, let's see, 1, 2, 3 points. I always like to break it down into threes.
Threes and fives. That's how people learn.
Yep. And again, I'd like you to lead a little bit here.
Okay.
So let's talk about, you and I were chatting, and we chat periodically. We should do more of that because
I know.
Work together a little bit. There's 3 areas that you brought up to me when we were talking about, well, how do we maintain? How do we keep our so the big problem here is we're trying to keep things up to date. When I talk to an instructional designer or somebody who's come in from like a big business and a traditionally educated trainer, instructional designer, someone that's come from an organization where things are moving slowly, they flip out, right? Managers that come into the space and go, oh, I'm going to do customer education, flip out sometimes. What are those 3 big buckets? And then let's tear into them.
The 3 big buckets of what people need to do to make sure.
Yeah, what we can do to really make keep our content up to date, right? And alongside an amazingly fast-moving product.
So the very first thing I'd start with is making sure that all of your materials are super organized, right? Super organized and centralized in a place where you're able to find them and use them very quickly. And I'll go through the other 2 points, then we can dig in on them. The second one is that you need to build for scale. So don't think about every single time something changes that you have to change, as I said, all 200 objects. Figure out what the scale is and how you can work with that, build modularly so that works. And then finally, of course, I've already said, you've got to have those good working relationships. Without that, you can't do any of these things. And then set a schedule. Make sure that customers and internal people know what the schedule is for updates and they know where to look for them. And if you've got that set up and you've got a good cadence, I think you'll find that everybody will keep up with you.
I like it. You've got a matrix type. You've got a framework really for keeping up to date. Okay. So let's tear this down. So I'm going to bring this up into the screen here. Okay. And we're going to talk centralized resources. Okay. This is this can be tricky, right? So let me frame up what I'm thinking about it. That when we say centralized, we mean, well, what do we mean? Are you putting them into a Google Drive, or do you have what we'd call not a learning management system, but a content management system?
Yeah.
What do you think there? How would you start off explaining this?
Well, I mean, I think first and foremost, nowadays, I don't think that you can do any kind of SaaS training if you don't have some sort of learning platform. It's going to differ depending on what you have. Thought Industries really serves specifically for the customer education sphere. That's what we're designed to do and really help out with that. Also professional training, anyone for whom it's really part of the business. That's what we're designed to do. And part of that design means that we also make it possible to be a little more agile with updating those things with an understanding that our customers need to be. But outside of a learning system, you also have to have some method by which you are organizing and centralizing resources. Anyone who creates e-learning, anyone who creates exercises, anyone who even just creates slides for ILTs knows that you have hundreds of screenshots. You have hundreds of images. You have half a dozen icons that you use on a regular basis. You've got 40 slides in every single one of your courses. Whatever it is, you've got a lot of material, and you've got to be able to find that material in a meaningful way so that you can make updates to it. So it's got to be a centralized thing that everybody knows where it is. That's top of need, I'd say.
And I want to ask you this question pointedly. You said everybody. Who's everybody? Is that just your team, or is that another
Ah,
team? Or I think it's important distinction to make.
yeah, that's a really good question. And I'm having to think about it for a second. I would say,
Hey, that's my job here.
yeah, definitely the people who are customer facing need to know where that material is, and how it's organized. And the more that you can organize it in a way that makes sense for those customer facing teams, the better they'll be able to pull from that education for whatever their needs are. So support. If they have a need and I have a 60-second video that meets that need, I want them to know where that 60-second video is, right?
Yeah.
Same way with the CSM, they're getting ready to do a quarterly review with a customer, and they know the customer wants to move to whatever. We have a maturity model at Thought Industries. They're ready to move to phase 3 personalization, really getting there. Well, I want them to steal my slides for that because we've spent time putting those slides together with their expertise. They shouldn't have to remake that wheel. So, I definitely those people, and absolutely anybody who's doing onboarding and professional services, because training should be part of that process. So anyone
Yeah.
customer facing absolutely needs to know. Other people,
Okay.
as long as they can come to the right people, I think we're okay.
It's flipping genius, Sandra. But I'm not challenging you at all, but I'm challenging the audience that we might not be talking to today. Those who are time traveling in the future, maybe stumbled on this maintenance thing. We're talking about how to keep your content updated. The felt reality of the experience of being in customer education is, hey, I made all this great stuff and nobody knows.
And nobody uses it.
And nobody uses it. So let me tell you a story. I'll try to abstract it a little bit.
Yeah.
But one thing that I know all the time, and CSM's out in the audience, I'm caveating this. I love you. I love you all. I've been worked at Gainsight. Customer success is my thing. But one thing I commonly see is that, okay, some of my favorite customer success managers, the best, most proactive people in the world, go, I don't have time. I've got to do my job. I have like a spreadsheet with all of the training stuff that I need to teach, and I will teach the classes myself. And I will and they might have their own deck, and they might have all stuff, because in a lot of cases where you and I are entering into an education role, nobody knows we're there. And to your point of talking to people, like I say, I saw Liz mention another person that you'd want to contact, a product marketing manager. Hi, Brian Childs, if you're out there in your team. But you need to go, I'm here and this is what we're going to build, and here's all our stuff, and hit the gong constantly to say this material is here. Use my stuff, copy it, riff on, well, not change it so much, but work with me. So what you're doing is you're actually giving the part of the product we make and helping everybody scale up. Right? By centralizing resources, you're giving people the things they need to say. A CSM should say, oh, Sandra, you're trying to learn this function. Cool. There's a class on it. Go here into my university, take this. I'm done with my conversation. I moved on to my next client. The customer goes, well, cool. And actually, if you do it really well, when I was at Outreach, for example, and you probably do this with other technologies, we had little templates and snippets made up that anybody could pull from email and go, bam, this is the module. This is the training. Of course, we had to keep that updated too. Okay. So what kind of tools do you use to centralize? What have you used? I know I've used stuff.
So my dream has always been to have something where like I can plug e-learning in, and everything in e-learning is just like one object. So like some sort of object oriented thing. So if like I need to change a screen, if I need to change a screenshot, I can change it everywhere. And I change it in all 50 courses all at the same time. I would love to be able to do that. And Thought Industries, okay, this is like a blatant plug, but it's true. We have a central asset manager that lets you do that with things like images and video and things like that. So you can very quickly just say, you know what? I'm going to take this image right here, which is maybe my homepage. I'm going to use it in 50 different classes. When the homepage changes, I'm just going to change it in the central asset manager, and it populates out to those 50 classes. That is a freaking dream. I love it, and it makes me very happy. If you
that
don't
is really
have that,
cool.
Yeah, that is cool. And we do the same thing with code snippets. So if you have like a tip image that you want to use or something like that, you can do code snippets in the same way. And there are other tools that have things like that out there. But if you don't have a tool, something like that, it is still possible if you just centralize those resources and you make it very clear what something is, either through the name of it, or the description of it, or even if you've got something that lets you do tagging in your content management system, a tagging strategy, which Ryan brought up, the way in which you tag content will make it easier for you to at least find that stuff and be able to replace it. One of the greatest things that I heard from one of our customers is they would take the ID for their video, any video that they used, and they would put that as a tag on any piece of content that used that video. So then when they would go through their content management system, they could just search for that tag, and then they had a list of the 45 places where they needed to change that video.
That is golden. That's
smart, golden. Right?
It's beyond smart.
Yeah.
I could talk about some of the things that my team and I have come up with, our strategies, which these kind of strategies are ones we need to document and put in the maturity model that we have for customer education, and say, here, like, I'd love to do a whole chapter on maintenance alone of a book, something like that. Or build a book, maintaining your content. So it's just it's one thing that I have been really down on doing, because I feel like, oh gosh, I'm beyond that. You get into, like, I built this great course, and actually I love watching instructional designers. They build a course and then they're like, I'm moving on. And I'm like, yeah, but a month from now you're going to come back. What?
Yeah.
Like, I want to do this new thing. No, we got to keep these things updated. And that's, we're going to get that. Okay. To keep us moving, we're at 10:30.
That moves us straight into building for scale, actually, very nicely. So
yeah, let's say again. So let me put my little banner up here, because this helps me go back and look at it. Okay, I want to talk scale, and let me have a moment here to talk about what scale means. Scale means is shorthand, and I don't hear people say this enough. That's why I'm an educator and I do this kind of thing. It means scaling your business. It's scaling up. Scaling means doing more with less, one to many, for example. This is why a scale means, for us in education, where we tend to start with training and trainers and loop and do that over and over again until we're exhausted. And then we go, oh, let's record it. And then we build a university, and then we expand the university, and then we build other assets, do microlearning, all this other kind of stuff. So scaling means we want you, dear friends out there in the audience, to be able to look at our content whenever you want, wherever you want, at any time of the day, and get value out of it. So that's where, now let's turn it to you. What's a tip? How, I think even Ryan pointed this out in chat. What's your first tip or focus point? Thanks, Ryan, for that. When you think about building for scale.
Yeah. Oh gosh. And I just want to back up really quick and say, I would love for somebody to create a guide on how to maintain content, because that is something that I could have used back in 2008. And I think people starting in 2022 could still use, because that everybody faces it and nobody has like the answer for it. So building for scale is part of that answer. And for everybody, it's a little different. For me, in the software industry, what I have done, because I know that things can change, I would say pretty regularly on a monthly basis. I cannot go in and update video, audio, images, and text every 2 to 4 weeks in 200 objects. I will never keep up. So what we've done is we build these modularly. So we are able to basically go to the bottom of this and say, updated at this point. So updates June 2022, updates May 2022, updates April 2022. And then every quarter we go in and we grab all of that and we take those things that were updated and we move them up into the course, and we kind of re-up the course. And we're able to do that on a quarterly basis, which means that we're always serving our customers. They always know what's new, even if they come in, that sort of thing. And we have a tool that lets us send out a learner notification that says, hey, there's some new information here. You might want to come take a look at it if they've already taken the class, things along those lines, so that they can go out and see what has changed and then we just true up on a regular basis. I started off with an annual one in 2008, and nowadays I can't do, honestly, I need to do quarterly at this point because there's enough changes that come out based on like agile releases. So that would be the very first thing that I would say is make sure that you build your training in a way, modularized in a way that you can add pieces to it until you have the time to true up.
And you know what? This just got so much easier. I'll riff on this a little bit because I think you're right. Quarterly, monthly, whatever your cadence is. Like if you have a really big team, you might even be able to part off a part of your org who's the maintenance crew, and then so that you maybe you have your more junior team members who are just starting off, and they get the slow pitch. Okay, update the content, make it better, whatever, and like they've already got a good template to work from. Sorry if you hear some background noise. It sounds like they're cleaning things. But okay, I want to break down a little bit more into what this looks like, because for me, I could be using all kinds of platforms. I'm a big Camtasia fan, right? So I love TextMix products for making simple videos, but you could be using Adobe. You could be using, Captivate. You could be using Articulate products, Rise 360. One of the things early on that I really struggled with as we're starting to learn how to use technology to educate. Many of us have had to stumble through and figure this out the hard way. And my friends, if you're listening, we don't want you to repeat these mistakes. You will, some of them. But okay, here's what I wanted to start with a problem that I had. When I was at Gainsight back almost a decade ago, I was building the first courses and starting my first university content. And I remember closing the door, being in a room by myself, lights down, water, me sitting there reading for hours and being totally frustrated by the sport team who were having a celebration outside a couple of times because they solved some tickets. And like, I'd have to go re-record. And then, okay, great. It took me hours to build all my videos and record them the hard way. I didn't know how to do all this then. Right. It was painful. And then guess what? If somebody came along and said, oh, we got to update this one slide. You know what? That's going to screw up because I come back and I go, fine. I do it. And then the audio sounds totally different. And then the experience of the end user is like, well, that was weird. That Dave's voice jumped up an octave. And like, okay, or there's somebody else in there. So when you talk about building modularly, that means we have to actually fundamentally change the way we're producing the content.
Yes. Yeah.
Tell me more about your feelings on that. Like, if you were building modularly.
Yeah, in a couple of different ways you need to change that. One of the things that, like, I was an early adopter of video. I thought video was great. Let's walk people through how to pull things together on the, in step 1, step 2, step 3. And I've actually gone back to something more simple where I just put up slide images and GIFs. It's like step 1, step 2, step 3 with the audio, because then if step 2 changes, I don't have to change the whole video. I just change step 2. That's one modular way of approaching things. The other thing is, I don't know if you remember what learning online was like back then, and still kind of is in some places. You'll have a 55 to 60-minute lecture on something. Well, guess what? What if something changes in the middle? So you want to break that up. And the third, something that Michelle just said, record audio separately from the video. Like, if you don't have to have it lined up with somebody's mouth, then record it separately because you can clean it up better. I mean, there's a free tool out there called Audacity that does almost everything that a professional one would do for voice. So there's no reason for you not to record it separately. I'm going to
interrupt you. Yep. Or you use a tool like Michelle and I, like we know each other. Hi, Michelle. Thanks for joining. And that's a great point. Well Said Labs or some of the other audio AI, machine learning audio platforms that are bringing the ability for you to use a pre-recorded AI-generated voice that sounds, oh my God, it sounds every bit as good as a regular human being, and you just put the text in.
That awesome.
Changes everything. I mean, I can't, I got a subscription for Well Said Lab for a month just for me. I paid $100 to do it. It was totally worth it. And it means now I don't have, well, I could hire a voice actor. Yeah. I would do that if I was making really good quality evergreen marketing material that I wasn't going to change.
Right.
But for me, if I have a transcript and let's say I have developers in a different country that English isn't their primary language, and I don't have to have that expectation, they have to record their voice, everybody's happy. And then I could go through and do the things and like each slide, drop the audio in, drop the video in, let it run, blah, 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 blah. I could automate this, right?
Well, I mean, anybody that's not familiar with recording their voice in audio is either going to go too fast, go too slow, get real uncomfortable. So like just getting it so that, the one or two people that you have internally that are comfortable recording their voices are not the only people doing it, I think is important. I think that's a great scale, and I think another point that you made as far as building for scale is really important. If you're building something, like you said, that's evergreen marketing, that kind of thing that really needs some flash, absolutely spend the extra time on it, spend the extra money on it. But a lot of the stuff that we create in customer education is going to be obsolete in a month. So don't over generate. Don't spend a voice actor on that. Don't put the money into that because it's going to change. Hello, Kitty.
Yeah, we have a special guest star, Luna. Hi, Luna.
Yeah, hi, Luna.
I don't know. She just came up. Oh my God. Okay. That again is another point about the differentiation of customer education from other fields and why instructional designers, you need to change the way you think about your content. Managers, you need to think about the time involved, not just to create the first time. And then you need to sit down and think about all of these. Here's another one I want to share with you. Great friends of ours, Videate. Videate.io.
Yes, I was going to mention them.
Michelle, I'm going to give you props for turning me on to this. And I've actually done a proof of concept with them. And I'm blown away by the ability of now, okay, let me blow your mind for a moment. Imagine, if you will, I have a 2-column sheet, right? With one column being the transcription, what I want said and what I want to say. The next column being the click actions that need to be taken by a machine to walk through the interface.
You mean like a storyboard? Like something that you create anyway?
This is a mind-blowing thing because yes, it is a storyboard that you run through a computer and it spits out a video with audio.
Yeah.
And it absolutely, and these technologies are coming hard for us, and they're going to change everything we do because now an instructional designer can say, you know what, I'm going to save my brain and time and motivation to do this, make the script, make sure that I'm guiding the computer through it. But now, Sandra, you come to me and you're the product manager and you say, Dave, you know what, I'm sorry. We've changed this big fundamental thing. And to me, it's going and raging around and throwing things. I go, no problem. And I go to Videate, I update my script, I feed it through and I go, you know what, 15 minutes later, almost literally, I've watched Mark Hellinger. So Mark, if you're out there, props to you. I watched Mark put this through the machine and come out through the software. 5 minutes, boom, I've got a video. It's new. I take that, put that back in LMS, done. Life-changing thing. So to our point, buildings for scale now, where our softwares, and again, this is the spirit of the show. If we're always looking at this constellation, an array of technologies, we're more about using the technologies to scale what we do within a microcosm of a business. It's really fascinating to me.
That goes right back up to, somebody saying that one of the things we have to think about is budgeting for the tech stack. Our tech stack gets bigger and bigger and bigger. We've got Captivate, we've got Audacity, Audacity is free. We've got all of the TechSmith stuff. And now we might want to think about some of these AI tools that are making it possible for us to create things faster so that we can keep up better. And that's part and process of leading a customer education team. Another thing that makes it a little different from some of the other things that you have to think about is that tech stack's getting more and more complicated.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because that is a substantially important thing. When you talk about like we're building education at scale because we work for scaling orgs.
Right.
And if I were to start over again, and I've done this a couple of times, when I come in as a manager or a director, I say, hey, you know what? I'm accepting the job, but the caveat is that I need these things. I need a learning platform, or I need you to think about the budget for such. Talk to FP&A. Before I start, I want to know what's my budget. Then I know everybody's going to need Camtasia. I mean, we might need to Articulate. We might need Captivate. I want to be, vendor agnostic here. I might need WellSet. I might need, there's a couple other new ones. If any of you are in the comments or running along with us, please put in the notes, in the comments, the things that you're using as we're going here, because I can't enumerate all of them. But that might be $100,000 a year. And people like managers and leaders and executives might flip out of that. And if you're an exec, I want you not to, because I want you to think about let's talk about, I don't know how many of my friends are out there. I think some of them are on the stream right now who have been like me. I might be a team of one. And I'm still a senior person, but I'm also both a leader and an IC. But if I come into an early phase company, so to give you a very clear example, I used to work for a company called Azuqua. They got acquired by Okta a few years back, and then I moved on to Outreach. I was a one-person show, and I had to do everything. So the first thing I did, Sandra, is think about, okay, I need this, 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 this. These are going to help me scale, and I'm going to do things in a way that I don't have to, revisit too much. Like I did videos. Like I recorded quarterly the product video. So I updated once every quarter, right? And then I just put that in my equivalent of an LMS, which was just a web page. But that's really important to set that budget aside and to think about the people power that it's going to take to build this framework for learning.
Yeah, I mean, if for the executives out there, if somebody gives you $100,000 price tag and says we're going to need to do this every year, and you say no, you're probably going to have to hire 3 $100,000 people to be able to keep this stuff up instead. So that is something that is really important to keep in mind. You cannot, as much as people really want to say you can just give it over to the SMEs and they can build it, it just does not work for online learning. There are just too many things to consider that if they don't have the background in that online learning, they're not going to be able to build it. So you at least need a team of editors to be able to make it usable in a good way.
Absolutely. And Amy, thank you. We've got Camtasia, Audiate, Rise 360, Credly, LMS, CloudShare, Wistia, iStock Photo. Yeah, that's one. That last one is something that that sneaks up on you when you're doing. Oh gosh, I was doing stuff like this even, where live streaming or building videos or talking online or webinars. You go, I need an image for this, and you go and you try to find free images. I use Unsplash for some, but man, getting an Adobe or an iStock Photo account, and it's dollars a month. Do it, just do it. It's like what Michelle would say, it's a return on investment to do these things. And it's, you can actually, I think one of the things that we should do in adding on to our maturity modeling is put in there all of this tech stack stuff. You were talking about it before. What are all the things you need? What are all the tools that you need to have? How can I get a list of them and just kind of an average price set at different times throughout your journey? Because the other thing is that your LMS, I know as a vendor, your company and other vendors who are on there have this problem where you get a leader and that leader's hiring an education person and they're going out and actually in advance of them, they're going to go, I need an LMS.
Right.
Oh, that's not the time for that. And you're not going to just hire somebody to figure out. There's a conversation.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff. And it's going to change over time. So what you might not need at first is you might not need the LMS at state, like if you're Series A company and you're just starting out, a web page might do, but you need to be thinking about that and setting that budget aside, because when you want to buy an LMS, you'll want to get something like your platform, which is it's not going to be cheap because it has tools in it that you have to have.
That's right.
Right. And you shouldn't cheap out on that kind of stuff. You can do it for a while, but when you're ready, build your tech stack.
Yeah. And I think it's important, if you are looking at something like a learning management system, that you have somebody in place that can help you put down your real requirements for it. Like, honestly, the LMS world, I live in that world. I have implemented 5 LMSs in my time. I have reviewed hundreds of them. And you can get anywhere from like a $10,000 investment to millions of dollars in investment. And trying to figure out where you should sit on that is really, really difficult. And I think that you want, well, I wouldn't say it's difficult. It's complicated, right? You have a lot of things that you need to think about, like what needs to be in this level of the tech stack and what doesn't. One of the things that we need at Thought Industries, because we do have a lot of SMEs that create content, is we need to be able to use a content creator right there in the tool and not have to pay a whole bunch of money for somebody to do that. Now, of course, I work for Thought Industries, so we get to use Thought Industries for that, and people can just type text on it and it builds a web page for us. Yay.
Very easy. That's really interesting to me, what you just said. And I think this is one of, and I'm cueing myself because I'm always doing research about this field. I think this is one of the important trends in customer education, and this is hard, Sandra. It's really hard because let's think about, let's play ID. I'm an ID. I've got my ID hat on, instructional designer, if I'm using too many shorthands. I know tools. I know Articulate. I know SCORM. I know this kind of stuff, right? And I'm coming into a job in a startup or SaaS, B2B SaaS, B2C SaaS, whatever, fast-moving company that's using customer education, not education services as we knew them 20 years ago. The differentiation here is that you've got more. Okay, I saw another app, and I'm not, this is agnostic. I saw a newer platform that was touting the fact they had video creation tools built in. So it's kind of like a hybrid of what you're talking about with Thought Industries and a Vidiate all in one wrapper.
Yeah.
So what it means is so what I liked about Thought Industries, and it was very fascinating. So I'll give props to Alia, my instructional designer, who you should meet. She was training somebody else on how cool it is that I could use page types and go, oh, this page type's a flip card. Well, I didn't have to do that on Articulate. I could do this. I could show the customer live as we're editing it in a sandbox. And customers are like, oh my God, that's so cool. And you do like a matching thing. And yes, sometimes there might be some limitations in that, but it's really not important. It's better to be able to do it in the LMS and the platform. And you can go, I just changed that one page and I did this one thing and I tweaked this and I use it. I've got all the verbs I need to express ideas about learning all right there in the system. And I don't have to go out to anything else. So that's a big ROI.
And that gives the instructional designer that you just hired freedom to not have to build all of that in Articulate or in Captivate, and more time to think about the business of customer education and develop their skills as a manager, right? Which is probably the title that they got if they're a team of one, right?
Yeah. So. Yep. Okay. You're giving me a good point to seg out, and I want to talk about, I have to pay the bills a little bit, right?
Yes, please.
It's not so much paying the bills. It's doing something that I really want to share with you, my friends. If you're on this, you're time traveling, you're here today. I have a program running called the Customer Education Strategy Workshop. The next 2 dates for this, any of you who are interested in, like Sandra said, building your personal knowledge stack, right?
That's a good way of putting it. There you go.
Yeah. The next one's coming up August 24th to 25th. I'm doing these 2 hours or 3 hours each over 2 days to give you time to do your normal job and not go, I can't stand Dave talking anymore. I can't. No, it's a workshop. And actually, you're not going to hear me lecture and talk all the time. We're going to work together and do some fun stuff, kind of like this. What's in these classes now? Right now, there's a $200 off coupon code. These are running about $500, $499. Everybody keeps telling me, Dave, you should charge more. I'm trying not to. I want you to get into this right now while you have a chance. It's summer. Take a break, take a couple afternoons or couple mornings and work on this with me. What we're going to do in this is we're going to look at a maturity model. Actually, I'm using the Thought Industries one, and we've adopted that here
Nice.
at Service Rocket because I think it's really good. It's very multidimensional. We're going to go through your customer success life cycle with you. Think through all this. I'm giving you space and guiding you on a journey to think through all the pieces, parts that would build a program. Talk about your process, do a little teaching. We're going to go through and set goals, align your goals to what your business goals are, right? What your executives are thinking about. Figure out where you are today and figure out where you're going to go. 3 to 5 year roadmap at the end of this. So you're going to walk, you get a booklet, you get a template. We're going to be using Miro for engaging directly all at one time. I've done this twice now since I've been here, more than that, actually. So much fun. Please join me. Again, this is a heck of a discount. If you can't get that expense, I'd be really shocked. If you need somebody to talk to your manager, I'll call them. I want you to join me, and I want to have fun, and I want to learn, and I want us to grow together. Okay. So again, the link is in the notes. Customer Education Strategy Workshop at Service Rocket. Also, and I won't push this as much. I really want to get you engaged. If you need help, Service Rocket has one of the first customer education as a service teams, meaning
Nice.
we're growing and scaling up. And I'm here to coach you and help you because, like Sandra, we have a great network of people. I can run down the list of folks, and many of them are in the chat right now. Thank you, all my friends, for joining. We network all the time. We talk all the time. I'm not the expert. I'm channeling you. And we're bringing this to other people to help them be successful. So we have a program. If you need help, if you want to contract somebody to help you build content, scale content, work through content, we're your folks. So enough of that pitch. I just had to do it.
Jump off of the pitches. Can I give 30-second addition to that?
Please do. Yeah. Let me give you the
$299 3-hour thing. Maybe exactly what you need if you're in a brand new manager position and a brand new contributor position, especially in a smaller organization. Super cheap for getting the strategy that you need. So I would highly recommend it. Also, it'll show you if you need something more like customer education as a service.
Right. And actually, just to riff on that a little bit more, we see a lot of the times working with vendors like you that this is a good parity because let's say you're working with Thought Industries and you're trying to implement the LMS right now. Well, if you work with us to build your roadmap, that can go right back to your customer success manager and help you grow. So this is a partnership with our vendors, and we love to do it. Anyway, we got one more topic. We're going a little bit over time. You want to stick with us, please do. Grab another cup of coffee because we're going to talk. What are we going to talk about? The last thing on the list. I got to get my banners up. Update.
Oh, I can do this in like super fast, super fast.
Groovy. Go for it.
Just say like all you want to do is make sure that you update your training on a regular schedule and keep people in the know on what that schedule is, whether it is on a weekly basis, a quarterly basis, whatever. Make sure that everybody knows what that is so that they will be able to communicate it to your customers and they can communicate it internally and they know when to look for it. There you go.
Whoa. Okay. That was lightning fast. Yeah. One of some of the ideas that I've seen are a Confluence page, something with updates. When you update, my organization is a heavy user of Atlassian. We actually do a lot of consulting for that. But we have Confluence pages that every time they update, I see it and I go, oh, this service or this product got updated. I can go look at that and I know to do it. And that's really, you might even want to build some kind of an internal notification system. Some of the things that I used to do, not me, my team used to do, can't take credit for this, is that I called them emissaries. We were a center of excellence and we went out and we broke up, like trainers and instructional designers would show up with the product team. They would show up at customer success, all hands meetings, product professional services, all hand meetings, and just give like a little 5-minute deal on, hey, here's where we're at. And this is the new stuff you can use. And this is what will really help you. You really should be evangelizing your program too. And this is hard. I know some of us, like I am an ENTJ, very extroverted. You're always going to see me talking. That's why I'm on this show. But if you're a little bit more reserved and more introverted, put it on your calendar and find some people. Maybe you have a team member that loves to do this and connect with other teams. But your job is to evangelize those updates too, right? Make them visible, make sure everybody knows where they're at. Whew. Okay.
Yeah. We covered a lot in a very little bit of time.
We covered a lot. I guess the last thing I wanted to say is that I've also used platform like an index. I think my ultimate dream is to have pages on Confluence or wherever where anybody can go to and see what's where,
yes,
what are the tags, all that kind of stuff. And this is a project I want to come back to. But if anybody in our audience wants to step up and show us some templates and tooling for helping out, I would love to see you do it. This is a great opportunity for another customer education leader to step up and show off. All right. Anything else? Let's wrap up now.
Okay.
So Sandra, obviously you can reach you on LinkedIn.
Yep. I'm on LinkedIn.
Anywhere else we can reach you?
Sandra.Elliott, ELLIOTT at thoughtindustries.com. By all means, feel free to reach out to me. I love connecting with people in this area. I love the fact that over the past 2 years, those connections have been made easier. I love the fact that I've gotten to meet you, Dave, and I just want more of those connections. Also, I'm on the Slack channel. Customer Education Slack channel. So that's another good place to find me there.
Cool. That's wonderful. You can also probably meet at a meetup periodically when we do. We have Pacific Northwest meetups going on. I know Brian Childs actually runs and Tyler Foster run we call it CE Beers, which is an event. You can go to learning-outcomes.com, I think, and usually sign up for CE Beers. That's fun because we don't all drink. We just show up and have whatever beverage you'd like to consume at the time. Get on a Zoom call and we just chat like this, but it's a little more private, and that's where you can come and ask questions. So periodically I show up there too. All right, so let's wrap up. And once again, Sandra, thanks for joining me. This was wonderful.
Oh, this is great.
It's a fun conversation. Those of you in the audience, hey, if you want to join me anytime, if you have a topic that you'd like to go deep on, I have this slot every single week on Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 Central. I would love to have you on the show to talk about a topic. If a group of you want to come on and talk, we're going to do that too. I know Ryan was on last week and we had 8 people, something like that on it. It was nuts. And it was so much fun. These are your peeps. We're your peeps. And I'll also pitch if you want to look at more information about customer education. We talked about the Customer Education Manifesto, which is on the screen below. That can help you out. I co-host C-Lab, the Customer Education Laboratory, and that's just at customer.education. You can't get a better URL. Come listen to the podcast there because you will see special guest stars and people that you know there as well. And with that, thanks again. Thanks for being in the comments today, joining us. Get out there, make great education. Thanks for joining us. Cheers, everybody.
Thanks. Bye-bye.